Again, I am not an economist. Because every time you say something, then people say, what did you study? Your economics. It's not a must that you study economics then to question some of the things that are going on in the economy right now. So don't ask me where my degree in economics is. I won't give it to you. Only thing I will tell you is that I know a couple of things that need proper conversations around. Now, let me take you back to the government that has been. That's the government for the former immediate retired president, Uhuru Kenyatta. And there was something going on in the education sector in the country, not on CBC. Already we've seen that the current president is taking affirmative action as regards CBC. There's a lot of public participation ongoing. So make sure you have your say on it. They've already published the list of the places that will be. Don't say you're not counted in. But I'm talking about higher education. Something that has been going on in the country is that there has been a cash crunch. That's okay, because we do know that as from next year, we need to prep with 1 trillion shillings for our debt servicing costs. So if KRA is collecting 2 trillion, that means that half of that money is going to go into debt servicing, and that's bound to rise, by the way, because the outgoing government, again, that is Ukuri Yatani and the team at Treasury side, by 2023, we need to prep with 2 trillion in terms of our debt servicing payments. That's a lot of money. But then, how is this affecting? Because there's a particular headline here that I want you to look into, because as we speak right now, universities, and I'm talking about the public universities in the country, they are seeking World Bank for bailout. Think about it. Because here's the headline, and you got to read about it. They're saying they are seeking 2.4 billion, all right, which is World Bank bailout to alleviate an acute cash crisis that is threatening to ground their operations. It's a headline that we started seeing last year when outgoing education CS, Professor Magoha, they say that universities need to be creative in exactly how they raise their funding, because they can't keep on depending on the national government for their money. So it's a headline that you're thinking about. So it's nothing is going to change, because then if they get this bailout from the World Bank, they're not going to go back to the government and cry for bailout. No, because majority of these universities are the leading ones in failing to even pay statutory payments like NHIF and NSSF. So they got to sell their research documents. They have to be attractive to the level that they're going to raise money within these particular universities. So all those courses that we've been seeing in these universities, like Bachelor of Arts, journalism. So probably now it's time for us to start doubting them, because then how is a journalist going to help you then raise money for your university? Probably now, those technical courses that the majority of these universities have been challenged to come up with, they have to look for ways of coming up with them right now. Or else, yes, we're seeking for 2.4 billion, but how we're going to pay for this money is where the problem is going to start. Now, let me go back again and look at some of the outstanding remittances the majority of these universities have not done. 13.7 billion in payee. Think about it. Pension, 18.5 billion. Cooperative or SACCO contributions of 4.1 billion, 4.5 billion owed to part-time lecturers. It's a lot of money when you're thinking about it. And then they're seeking only 2.4 billion. So you can actually say that this is just somewhat a scratch of the surface and the cash crunch that is going on in these particular institutions. Now, for instance, universities need 32.6 billion to support the 2022 freshmen who've gone in. That is about 145,145 of the government sponsored, and the government has only given out 12.5 billion, or just a third of those funding needs. There was also a conversation on how we need to change that formula for funding these universities. But what is going to stand out is that if they don't get a bailout, that things are going to go bad. because we've seen what University of Nairobi did, what some universities in the country have also done. Some of them scrapped courses, some of them closed their satellite campuses, and they're going back and then say, do we need majority of this staff in these universities? Something again that we need to ask ourselves these questions this morning as we start Look at Business. My name is Simba Kiage. Thank you very much for taking your time to join us on our Look at Business, which is going to go all your way to 12 noon today, with the question being, now that the government is saying that we need more taxes from the employees, are you ready for it? I'll be reading you those tax bands, and I'm joined this morning again by one particular mind who's going to help us dissect those particular conversations. Let's get started. Now, the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, KAM, has hosted the Cleaner Energy Conference and Expo during the ongoing Changamka Shopping Festival in Nairobi to deliberate on promoting the uptake of clean and renewable energy by local manufacturers. The expo focuses on helping the country achieve a clear pathway to net zero climate change and energy security. Edwin John Mukora starts us off.
With COP27 slated to take place in Egypt later this month, the discussion on mitigating climate change continues to take center stage. The expo is aimed at exploring alternative energy sources with a special focus on renewable energy and sustainable energy in the country.
I'm happy to note that the industries are thinking, the manufacturing sector is thinking in that direction, because the greatest conversation that we are having now is whether to go for profit at the expense of the environment, or to think about our environment. And that's where the energy sector is.
Director for Renewable Energy at the Ministry of Energy, Engineer Benson Mwakina, observed that Kenya is endowed with vast natural resources like wind, solar and geothermal energy that need to be tapped into, adding that it was important for the country to grow the local industry for the opportunities to be exploited.
So everyone in the East African region is learning from Kenya, and we are very proud of that. And so we are also happy because of KAM and the Center for Energy Efficiency, because whatever we agree to do, we do it together. And the issue of training, they give the trainings that they plan. Of course, our people, the whole the sector also benefits. Our engineers, our officers benefit. And we see how it has brought us together, especially in this reduction of CO2 emissions.
On her part, the Council of Governors representative has lauded the local manufacturing sector for embracing clean energy and transitioning to green and sustainable manufacturing as the world faces the impact of climate change.
As we speak today again, 43 counties have operationalized the county climate change funds, to which they allocate about 1% to 3% of their development budgets towards climate mitigation strategies. Additionally, these counties have developed climate information service plans, which are estimated to serve approximately 2.5 million people or 375 households in furtherance of this.
The Clean Energy Conference and Expo runs alongside the Changamka Shopping Festival, which seeks to celebrate the local manufacturing sector. Edwin John Mukora, Look Up Business.
Edwin John Mukora with that particular one. Now, even as President William Ruto plans to cut expenditure by 300 billion shillings, Kenya's debt servicing costs are projected to jump to 1 trillion shillings by the end of the current financial year. According to an annual public debt management report, public debt will climb from 8.58 trillion by June to 10.1 trillion within the next 2 years. Let's align our reports on what will be a tough balancing act for William Ruto's government to develop the economy while living frugally.
According to a report by Treasury's Annual Debt Management, projections indicate debt is estimated to hit 9.4 trillion by June 2023, with public debt expected to jump from the current 8.58 trillion to 10.1 trillion within 2 years, highlighting the need for further austerity measures for Ruto's government. The report further indicates that the country will have to deal with a rise in debt servicing costs from the current 945 billion shillings, equivalent to 49.2% of total revenue, to 1.19 trillion in June 2023. Treasury further indicates that this figure is expected to double to over 2 trillion, which will be equivalent to 64.9% of revenue. With the government currently spending 2.59 billion daily to service debt, the report indicates that it will cost 3.36 billion daily by June and July next year, which will be occasioned by public debt growing by 246.9 billion shillings, an additional 26.1% jump in the figure, which will mean that Kenya has to look for an additional 676.5 million shillings daily for its debt obligations, after growing by 17.6% from 780.6 billion shillings spent on debt service to June 2021. With Ukur Yatani promising to reduce debt as a percentage of GDP, the new Treasury CS will have to find ways to mitigate the current 7.3%, with this expected to jump to 7.4% in the next financial year, according to the report. With the current budget running on a deficit of 862.5 billion shillings, the Treasury plans to plug this local borrowing, estimated at 581.7 billion, and external debt of 280.7 billion. With the international market ever adjusting their interest rates upwards, it will be up to the government to find proper ways to mitigate what stands to be a crisis in the running of President Ruto's affairs. Lisa Minor, Look Up Business.
Lisa Minor. Now, Nairobi's small businesses have received a shot in the arm after Africa Logistics Properties, ALP, opened a modern warehouse facility at ALP West Logistics Park in Limuru, Kiambu County, aimed at easing supply chain management for small and medium-sized enterprises. Speaking at the official opening, Honorable Moses Korea, Trade, Investment and Industry Cabinet Secretary, commended ALP for their efforts and underscored the government's commitment to attracting investments into the country.
But more important is to state again the commitment of the government of Kenya, led by President William Ruto, to promoting investment, to welcoming investors, so that you can be our war partners in the journey to create jobs, to increase incomes of our people, and to grow Kenya's competitiveness in a regional and the global stage.
So at our courtyard development, we were determined to see whether we could get more business by having a lower entry level for tenants, for SMEs, and that was a success. So we've decided that the next phase should be more of those units, only better. And we think that those units will be a very important part of the mix of buildings that we see here on ALP West. It's a lower entry level rent for that specification of building than, for instance, a high bay building. So it gives you a very easy starting point, good, easy access to a quality warehouse, but because you're on the park, you have the opportunity to grow into either more of these units or into a high bay unit as your building grows.
Moving on, CIC Group kicked off the sale of its 50-acre land located in Kiambu. The land, which is part of a 200-acre property neighboring Tatu City, has been subdivided into quarter-sized plots for easier purchase, with prices starting from 7 million shillings. Other residential plots, which will be sold to homeowners, will be set in courts within the larger gated community as prescribed by the approved proposal submitted to the county government.
And unlocks for you a medical cover. So very competitive.
So over the years, our investment decisions are geared towards building CIC's potential in terms of capital and asset position, and this is definitely for long-term sustainability. So with that in mind, this land is therefore a prime investment as it is positioned in a rapidly developing area, coupled with high demand for residential units in Nairobi and its environs. This property provides an easier option for Kenyans to own homes, and this is more because together with our financing partners, the Cooperative Bank, we will be using the buy and the build model, which is cheaper and helps buyers to develop customized homes.
And the critical and important thing is that as we bought this land, it was one way of diversifying our investments, not as a way of speculating, but as a way of a good vision that we wanted to play a part in the real estate sector.
Out from, away from the development slopes down.
Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi said that the Kenya Meat Commission will kickstart a livestock off-take program in the region and efforts to save 450,000 cattle at the verge of succumbing to hunger due to the ongoing drought across the country. Speaking at Kajiado in a fact-finding mission to assess the extent and effects of the drought in the region, Linturi said the government will fund Kenya Meat Commission to the tune of 350 million shillings to buy livestock from farmers in the region. The CIA said KMC will work hand in hand with the National Drought Management Authority and DMA to ensure even emaciated livestock are considered to avert any losses among the affected farmers.
Mahali tumefikia tunasema hata pengine msisaidie ng'ombe, lakini msaidie watu, lete chakula ya watu. Jambo la pili ambaye tungependa muangalie, muangalie mambo ya ngozi na mambo ya watu.
Sisi tunataka mjue ya kwamba serikali ya Mheshimiwa William Ruto inawapenda, serikali ya Kenya inawapenda, na ndio mnaona sisi tuko hapa ikiwa waziri wa kilimo na mifugo na PS wetu hapa ili kuweza kuhakikisha ya kwamba baada ya kujua na kuongea na nyinyi, basi tukirudi kwa ofisi tunaweza kukuja na mambo na kufikiria vile tutaweza kuwa na suluhisho la kudumu kwa shinda hii. Nataka kuwaambia rais wetu anawapenda na anashughulikia na anaelewa, na tukitoka hapa tutamweza kumwarifu the correct situation ya mambo ya janga hili katika hapa Kajiado.
Welcome back. On that particular note, let's take a look at exactly how the markets are trending. Actually not trending at this particular hour. It's been what? 2 hours and 17 minutes of trading. Yesterday, we did speak about this particular outlook of the markets this week with Sight on Investments, and I do promise that I'll be calling them back every other single time so we can actually get to go into this particular conversation. This morning, I want us to look at exactly how the markets closed yesterday, and that means that we're going to start from our gainers this morning and exactly how the markets opened. And I'll tell you a couple of surprises in that particular list. And I want to start with our Scan Group, by the way, which now you can get at 3 shillings and 30 cents. So that is a change of 9.27% from yesterday. And that's huge. So let's talk about Centum now. Centum now opened this morning at 8 shillings and 90 cents. Is insurance stock that representing 8.8% change from what they were the day before yesterday. And I'm only talking about that because we do have Britam as well. So Britam, you can get it this morning at 6 shillings, and that is coming in at a positive of 3.81%. So you can actually see how those particular stocks have been represented there. Those are insurance stocks. So you'll tell me probably that people are thinking about closing the year. So those insurance figures then will come in, yeah? So now we see exactly whether there's something left on the side so we can get to secure businesses before the end of the year. Well, I'll be investigating this particular one once we close this week, because it might be a bit different depending on exactly how you look at it. But then if you look at the losers list this morning again, and remember it's been 2 hours and 18 minutes of trading, then you will see that there's a surprise. Yes, definitely. Equity is back on it again at 44 shillings. By the way, they've been quite flat. I've not seen them in the top 5 in terms of volume from last week. They've been oscillating around number 6, 7, with the likes of KPLC knocking them out of that top 5 list. But if you look at it, you will see equity is back on it again. And then NMG at 16 shillings. But then if you look at it again, you will find Kakuzi again in the top losers list at 410 shillings. Maybe because of bad rains and all that. You will say that, but then hold on. We have to investigate on exactly what happened to Kakuzi yesterday, because one of those potent areas to put your money in is at Kakuzi. They're coming in at 410, but representing 2.38% on the negative. So we'll leave it there in terms of those losers, but then you will say equity is a surprise, because we should be expecting them to be what? At 47, 46? That could be the healthy one. Not 50, no. Could not go to 50. If you look at exactly where they've been averaging, you'll say 53 could be healthy, but they've not touched that yet. And Kakuzi, that's a surprise one, 410. But not so much of a move, because that will be representing 2.38%. But let's see what the big boys then did yesterday in terms of the top movers by volume, by the way. And Safaricom, there's no money in the market. You will say that. Oof. The thing is, that November is not really that good for trading at the NSE. They usually say November is when international investors are taking a break. By the way, Thanksgiving is coming soon. So majority of people are now traveling home. Let's recoup the losses and the profits of we made this year. So that's why November would record this particular figures we're seeing, because Safaricom closed yesterday at 2.7 million only. Equity, 550,000. Regardless, despite, of them being among the top losers in that particular standing. KCB have been down, but look at those numbers, 227,000. Kengen, 132,000, and KPLC. By the way, Kengen and KPLC, they've been among the top traded counters since this new government came into power. So it's not about the Daily Nyoro news and the news that the National House now is trying to find a way to help Kengen supply power directly to consumers to fight the Kenya power monopoly. In some places right now, we're talking about power blackouts with KPLC treating Tisindio Tuko. It's not going to be that long, KPLC, because if Kengen then that have been competing with you in terms of those big volumes moved, you're not going to be the only ones. Okay. That's how it looks. Not so much money in the market. You were saying that. I mean, top 5, we only have 104,000 that KPLC moved. But the story is KPLC. They're really rolling. Take a short break. Once we come back, we don't have Festus Ngari with us. We're going to talk about this new plan by President William Ruto's government to have you pay more in terms of taxes. Are you in agreement? And if not, why? And is it time though? Once we come back.
Vera Beauty and Fashion College is focused on being the leading technical and vocational training institute in the region. Our team possesses in-depth knowledge and extensive experience in the industry, offering thorough training in cosmetology, hairdressing, interior design, creative arts, training of trainers, nail technology, and fashion design. With branches in Nairobi, Thika, Meru, Eldoret, and now in Mombasa, our courses ensure that learners are completely equipped with knowledge, competency, and employability skills. Enroll today to be a part of a center of excellence.
Born a man, the society bestows tough responsibilities upon you.
Lazima uwe mtu wa bidii, ukija kuoa lazima uwe ni provider.
If you're not able to provide, that's a challenge. It takes a toll on a man.
It takes someone who is strong enough to face it.
This is Born a Man.
Hapa kazi tu inaendelea kuwasaka na kuwatambua wale ambao wanafanya kazi extraordinary na zile kazi za kujituma.
Biashara yote unaambiangwa, as long as you have a plan, you can do it. Our service is about to the customer.
Mpenzi mtazamaji, hii ni hapa kazi tu.
Yippee! Kamata plotting at 349K. Oh yes, for only 349,000 Kenyan shillings, you become a plot owner at the Great Oasis Gardens, Nanyuki. The Great Oasis Gardens, Nanyuki is located along the Nanyuki-Rumuruti Road, only 11 minutes from the Cedar Mall and right opposite Mount Kenya Wildlife Estate. This is the best place to establish the getaway home that you have always dreamt about. For every 349,000 that you deposit or pay as installment towards any of Optivent's plot of land, you get 10K cash back instantly. Jaza basi twende Nanyuki. Bigger is indeed better.
Good to have you join us on Heart to Heart.
We bring you stories of people who, despite the pressures they experienced, still trusted God to see them through.
The seeds that were sown in me helped me navigate and overcome that period of my life.
New testimonies, new insights, and even better revelation of the good things God has in store for us.
There is always a blessing waiting for someone in every episode.
Hi there, good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're watching us from. My name is Maki Wambogo, Sales Manager Optivent Real Estate, and I'm here at our head office, Absa Towers, located at Reuters Street. Today, I'm here to talk about our newest project, that is Great Oasis Gardens, Nanyuki, and it is located only 10 minutes drive from Cedar Mall. And in this project, we have proposed that we will be having a GMC Entertainment Center. This will be a replica of what we have in Kitengela, GMC Kitengela. We are also proposing a police post, so you are assured that security, once you invest here, security is good. And we are also proposing to have a playing ground. We are also going to have a community ground. So once you invest here, you don't have to worry about the security. The other things, among the things that we are doing, or the things that we have done already in Great Oasis Gardens, we have already done the marking fence, and the roads, the internal roads are already happening. We have started the maraming the road, and we are still in the process of doing the maraming of the internal roads. And we are also sinking a borehole so that we ensure that our investors in Great Oasis Gardens, Nanyuki, will not struggle with water. We are also going to elevate a water tower so that we have a constant supply of water in this project. And we also have a caretaker on site. The caretaker is on site and he's there 24/7. And then we also have different sizes in this project. We are having 8, we are having quarters, we are having halves, and we are also having acres. One can buy in bulk, you can buy in big chunks, and that is why we are saying in Great Oasis Gardens Nanyuki, we are saying that bigger is better. In this project, what you can invest in private schools, you can also do holiday homes, whereby you can do Airbnb, you can also do holiday homes and then you start renting, and you can also build houses and sell. You can also do apartments in this area. You can also do supermarkets. You can also build a mall and then you start renting. There is so much that you can do in this project because it is not controlled development. We are also located along Nanyuki Rumuruti Road, and this road is being proposed to be tarmacked by the government. So coming from Nanyuki or coming from wherever you'll be coming from, it will be very easy to access the project because it is touching the Nanyuki Rumuruti Road, which is going to be tarmacked by the government. My number is +254 722 355 107. Do not be left behind. Call that number. I will work with you. If you are in Kenya, give me a call. We go for the site visit. We select the project. We start the payment. If you're in diaspora, send a representative, and I will be delighted to work with you. And as we say here in Optiven, we shine because you make us shine. God bless you. Thank you.
I'll be reading you what the tax band that has been proposed by President Ruto's government is going to be. If you don't have it, I'm going to be giving it to you. But on set, I want to introduce him officially, then read for you what the tax band is going to be. Then we get into that conversation. I'm joined by Festus Ngari, who is the Assistant Secretary General, Kenya County Workers Union. Mr. Ngari Festus, welcome. Now hold on to that because we just want us to react to this once we come back immediately. So this is the new tax band, and if you're earning this, once this goes through, that is exactly what you're bound to pay then as taxes to President Ruto's government. Now, if you earn 50,000, the current deductions are 8,000, so you take home around 42,000. So going to be taking home now, they're going to deduct from you 10,000, okay, 503, an extra of 1,820. If you earn 100,000, currently you lose 24,000 as deductions. Now that is going to double to 28. So around 3,136. Then all the way up to 500,000, where currently, by the way, the current deductions, if you earn 500,000, 144,108. That's a lot of money. And then now you'll part with an extra 34,520. You ask yourself, where are these deductions going to go to? It is NSSF, NHIF, and payee, that is bound to shoot. So that now you have all these deductions coming through. So those bands, by the way, all the way to 500,000, and they stop there. So those earning $1 million plus then will be deducted also 144,108, but it's going to be 34,520 as the highest improvement, with the least one being 1,820. You ask yourself the question, how many of us are in the formal workforce in Kenya? About 2.9 million, and then the rest of the 14.5 are in the informal sector. The questions are from the informal sector. Good. Ngari Festus, let's begin like that. Before we went on air, you were saying, yes, indeed, but then you put in a lot of buts. Let me first begin like this. Is Kenya ready for this improved tax bonds?
To speak the truth, Kenya is not ready. A good foundation is a strong foundation that is based on what is sustainable.
Yes.
And as we enter into this conversation, the first thing that we should take into consideration is the benchmarks as to where are we and where do we want to go. In terms of strategic plan, we have mapped the situation analysis in terms of where we are. And we have seen that most of the government activities are being financed by the formal sector, the people who are on payslip. Those payslip do not indicate decent wages. Those payslips actually have led Kenyans into pecuniary embarrassment, because that payslip, apart from the statutory deductions, people want to save through SACCOs. And because of the way the cost of life has been, the same payslips have been subjected to other forms of borrowing, like the ones you borrow through the phone, where people do hire purchase schemes using the same payslips, so that at the end of the month, once the pay is released, there is no take home at all. We have also observed that in the public sector, which has been affected by the operations of the SRC, salaries have stagnated for more than 10 years since the new constitution came into place. It's no longer a new constitution, but the constitution that created the SRC. People have stagnated, meaning that we are not improving the welfare of Kenyans' civil service positively.
Yes.
Because inflation has not stopped. The inflation is at all-time high. The cost of life has gone over the roof. And adjustments to these salaries is very, very important.
Yes.
So that people can be able to save. The aspect of saving is most welcome. In fact, it doesn't need to be legislated, because it is the desire of the workers, the working force, to continue saving, to improve on the current, and even in the future. When we retire, we want to continue living a decent life in our retirement when we are not energetic. But how can we achieve this? That is the goal that we look into as the workers' representatives, so that we can have now conversation with the government, so that the government can, first of all, understand us and where we are, so that it can create the best environment to move us to achieve those goals.
Yes.
If you look at Europe, for instance, there's no country in Europe, I was looking at Sweden and Norway, nobody saves less than 10%. But when you look at their wages, it is a reasonable wage. It's a living wage. It's not a minimum wage. You look at Kenya, which is a developing country, we are barely surviving on a minimum wage. The bodies that are supposed to come up with the market salaries, they are not doing that. Let's say, for instance, SRC is looking at the wage bill and not productivity. As people in the trade union movement, we look at productivity, we look at the wages, and we say that a motivated employee will be productive. With the production, the government will fill the pots and the granaries. Then using whatever is in the granaries, it will come back to the people through decent wages and efficient and good services.
Yes.
Because the government is there to give us services. And it will also give better services that will also trigger the entrepreneurs to go and fill the gaps that exist.
Yes.
And then the government itself, in its investment, should focus on investing where public sector is not interested in investment, but nevertheless, that sector needs to boost the population so that the welfare grows along all the three corners that are necessary to make people happy and to grow the economy.
Yes.
It will be a balancing act. But let me say that we are not reinventing the wheel. We are actually retreading the wheel, because the wheel is already there. But it has been on the road for such a long time that the grip now is now on dangerous levels. So that if we look, for example, like the Pensions Act, why was it introduced in the first place many years ago? People had already seen that the future life will not be as interesting if you spend the better part of your energetic, active life producing, and then when you're not productive, you just survive for a few days and go away. We retire at 60, but we can live to 85, 90, even 100. There are case studies. But how will that life be after the working life?
No,
that is why we need to start saving from the first day. From your first payslip, start saving. So this payslip needs to allow you to be able to save.
Isn't it? Because the conversation has to start from that. Now, Gary first, I want to point you to this direction as well. If you look at the number of Kenyans in the formal workforce in the country, we're about 2.9 million. Fine. The rest of the Kenyans then will fall in the informal sector in the country. Then somebody said this, hold on, why are you targeting the few when you know very well that the rest of the ones that you want have not been onboarded into the tax system in the country? Should have the focus been get the ones that have not been onboarded into the tax umbrella? Then after that, if you feel that the numbers are not good enough as well, now come back and tell us, look here, we just got to up it up a little bit. Should have we started from there?
Exactly, that should be the starting point, because we already know what is coming from the formal sector.
Yes.
No doubt about that. The numbers are very, very clear. Mm-hmm. But everybody, it is not a secret that the informal sector, we only see that it is potentially a good source of revenue. But our KRA has not gone deeper to tell us that probably less than 15 million or just across around 15 million informal sector, what is it capable of doing to finance the activities that literally give them the services that they receive from the government?
Yes.
Somebody, and this is KRA, needs to go down to the people and find out where the problem is. Because indeed there is a problem.
Yes.
Many people in the informal sector are earning much better than the people in the formal employment. Yet it is only the formal employment that we can be able to tell the numbers and the figures that is coming from there.
Yes.
It is not fair. Our constitution does not envisage a situation whereby there is discriminative nature in the way government activities are financed. So the people we represent are literally the people who are doing NHIF. Mm-hmm. There are also the people that are doing NSSF, and there are also the people that are in pay-as-you-earn bracket. This is less than 3 million. Where are the other Kenyans?
Interesting question. Interesting question. So I'll point you out to another particular one as well. Do you feel, and this is the question that I've been asked across the board, Ngari, do you feel that this is a tax issue as opposed to a tax payment issue, in the sense that, look here, do not milk a cow that you're already milking. Look elsewhere. Is that what it is? It's a tax issue as opposed to a tax payment issue, which then begs another question. Now, is this the best time for you to make these adjustments? Gary, first is 9.6% inflation, and we do know exactly what is happening with Russia-Ukraine. Life is expensive, the ongoing drought, the economy is recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. Does it make sense for you then to come in and tell us, okay, now, guys, you got to pay more? Because you can see the list one is 1,800, all the way to 34,000 in terms of deductions. That is the increment.
Let me say that the timing cannot be dictated by anything.
Would you say that?
The timing is dictated by the desires that the government intends to achieve.
Yes.
And the government has also its short-term and long-term. In terms of ability, this is where I would request the government to get into conversation with the people.
Indeed.
So that literally today, I will tell you that the biggest percentage are unable to release a coin because there's no coin to be released.
There's no coin to be released, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yes. So, I'm sorry to cut you short right there, because I just want you to continue with this thought. Then the question the majority of the people have been asking, why would you want me to pay more? What is the motivation for me to pay more?
Improved services. If Kenyans are seeing improved services, they will voluntarily even pay more. Look, for instance, in terms of savings for pension. People do pay the mandatory pensions, and they also go ahead to do extra voluntary.
Yes.
So this is not a matter of being forced because there is a law existing. This is a matter of somebody who is capable of doing what is the minimum required by the government, and on top of that, additional for that person who has already seen it right, that it is good to save. We see people coming from Europe to come and have holidays in this country. We also want, when we are 60, 65, we also want to go to the rest of the world and tour and enjoy and prolong and enjoy life.
Yes.
The problem is, do we have disposable income? Currently, do we have decent jobs? Are we being subjected to servitude?
Yes.
Are we being told to live in a house that is cannot qualify to be called a house? Are we having a minimum diet that is required of 3 meals per day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Are we having all those things? The answer is no. This country has got the haves and the have-nots. And the have-nots is where the majority of hustlers are. And we know our president understands us. We want him to have a conversation with us. And then the other thing is that we do not have problem with the progressive tax system that Kenya adopted many years ago, because that is what they only adjust, because the people who are earning more pay more.
Yes.
The ones that are earning less, they pay less. A bracket of between 10% minimum and 30% maximum. That is okay. Although in future, if the finance ministry finds it worthwhile to tax the 30% bracket above, we will also look at the impact.
Yes.
We should not implement policies that we cannot be able to assess the impacts. So first is impact assessment. Ask ourselves, by doing this along this population, what are we likely to receive?
Indeed.
But the most important thing is that every time I see I have paid a tax, I should also see commensurate services. If I am giving NHIF from the formal sector a minimum of 1,700, and we are many of us, then at the point of getting treatment, I should feel that whatever I give to NSSF has come back to me in a good, what do we call it, the treatment is competitive to what other private hospitals are giving, as opposed to what the NHIF accredited hospitals have given me.
Yes.
I expect original drugs and not generics. When I go for overall test, I want, if it's a blood test, to be done thoroughly. And the doctor will tell me exactly what is the state of my health, because health is wealth, and I'm paying for it. For instance, how are other health providers comparing with NHIF, for instance? If a private person goes to a private insurance company that offers medical cover, compared to what I pay annually to NHIF, how do the two compare?
Indeed.
Have we ever asked ourselves such questions? Are such questions important in terms of what services we are getting from NHIF after we give them the money that we give them through taxation, statutory deduction? Those are some of the questions that we should be able to ask.
Yes.
If we look at saving for the old age, because we want social security when we are old, do we have the exact figures that are coming from NSSF in terms of returns? If we recruit somebody to be the managing trustee of NSSF, can this person say that on performance contract, this is the minimum return that I am willing to give you in this particular financial year? So that at the end of the financial year, we can do an evaluation and say that the managing trustee actually worked.
Yes.
Where is this money being invested? Why are we experiencing negative returns when we know that the investment opportunities are there? When we look at the stock exchange, there are available investments that are doing well, while others are going down. Do we have good people who can be able to evaluate which are the better investment in the stock exchange?
Yes.
Are we taking advantage of the government investment in the money market? and the long-term boards, which promise guaranteed fixed returns before we go to risk in other risky areas like buying land and constructing buildings very expensively, not even knowing when our return of investment will ever come. Those are some of the questions that the real taxpayers are asking.
Yes.
Yet, don't forget, the informal sector, they don't care. Because them, as long as they are not paying taxes...
As they keep on driving their own direction, isn't it?
They'll ask the elected leaders for a road, they'll ask for water, they'll ask for security, they'll ask for all these things that are offered by the government. But they'll not be sympathetic or even empathetic to the formal sector that is not capable of getting that tax exemption.
Let me ask you this one then, Mr. Ngari Festus. My director tells me we only have 2 minutes left for this conversation. Here's the thing. You see what Aisha Jumwa is proposing on the side. The civil servants then would expect a pay rise in the next 100 days. Should have the president started from there? That I understand that life is now a bit hard going by the cost of living and inflation and all that. So we're going to increase your salary, but once we increase it, then the deductions from this particular salary is what's going to go to this proposed month. Should have it started from there?
In less than 2 minutes, I agree that salary increment is very, very important and critical at this particular point in time. Let people get salary increase because one of the motivating factors in the working place, other than job satisfaction, is also the earnings.
Yes.
Earnings that can attract and retain employees. And an employee who is retained is a motivated employee and will also be productive, because the opposite of not being productive is that you lose a job. So it's a two-way traffic. You give so that I am able to give you. And from there, then the ability to increase the tax will be guaranteed.
Yes.
Up to what percentage, we should have a conversation. Because if you tell me to give you 2,000 out of my 14,000, that is literally not possible.
Yes. Pretty much. Ngari Festus, we need to have a conversation on this further, by the way, because there are a lot of other issues, and I'll be calling you back every time that the new CS for public sector and public service then will be coming in and making those pronouncements, because it's already been told you're making roadside announcements. When your president is saying, we're going to cut expenditure by 300 billion, and you're here telling us that we're going to see salary increments in the next 100 days. So who is who? Guess what? I'll be calling you back on that. So we need talking on that, because
I also wanted to make a very small contribution.
Please do, as we're clear.
In terms of government wastage.
Yes.
I will not say much, but yes, we have observed that there's a lot of wastage in the public expenditure, which our president should look into, so that when there's less wastage and there is more revenue, the balance sheet will improve.
Pretty much, I'll be calling back. We have a lot to talk about. Guess what? I'll be calling him back again. In fact, by the way, as we speak right now, even county issues and the public service sector, there's just a lot. And guess what? We do have him here. We shall be calling him back again so we can actually get to delve deeper into those issues. What I do know is that the World Cup team is getting ready then to come and give you a few of tidbits on exactly how we're getting ready for the World Cup. Ian Kitani and the team are going to follow next, but taking back to the time that I came into the studio this morning at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. I am Kiage Simba. Those comments and suggestions that have come in, guess what? I'll be sending them back to him directly so that now you can get to talk to him as well. Thank you very much for your time. I'll see you tomorrow. God willing. That's it. That's what they say. All right.